WWE CEO just revealed the truth behind Seth Rollins' knee injury. The truth is out. WWE CEO breaks silence on Seth Rollins' knee injury. What really happened to Seth Rollins? The shocking truth has finally been revealed by WWE's top boss, and fans are stunned. In this exclusive exposé, we break down the official update from WWE CEO regarding Seth Rollins' mysterious knee injury that forced him to cut his match short. Was it worse than we thought? Was WWE trying to hide something? Get all the answers in today's video. What if I told you that one of the most iconic WWE superstars of our generation, Seth freaking Rollins, may have been betrayed by the very company he helped carry on his back for over a decade? What if I told you that the knee injury that forced him out of WWE's biggest summer storyline may not have been entirely accidental? In the wrestling world, fans are used to swerves, heel turns, and scripted betrayals. But what happened to Seth Rollins wasn't part of the show. And this time, it's not about championships. It's not about faction wars, heel heat, or five-star matches. This time, it's real. It's about pain, about pressure, and about a truth WWE tried to bury, until their own CEO was forced to speak. It began with a sound. A sharp, unmissable pop echoing through the ring during WWE's Saturday night's main event, a sound that silenced a roaring crowd, a sound that changed everything. Seth Rollins, limping, eyes wide, holding his knee, refused medical attention. He gritted through the remainder of the match, even delivering a half-limping stomp to secure the finish. The audience applauded. The arena roared. On the surface, it looked like just another gritty performance from the architect, but backstage, chaos was unfolding. Security rushed, medical personnel sprinted, TripleH was seen yelling at someone off-camera. Becky Lynch, Seth's wife, was reportedly in tears, and Paul Heyman, his mouthpiece, his advocate, his friend, was pacing with a look of disbelief, muttering just one word, no. At first, WWE released nothing. No statement. No video. No press release. Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't protect, it only intensifies the suspicion. Then, 24 hours later, social media exploded. #Rollins injured, #knee pop heard round the world, #what happened to Seth. And for the first time in years, even WWE diehards began to wonder, was this just a freak in-ring accident, or was there more to the story? Was Seth Rollins pushed too far? Was he even medically cleared to perform? Was this injury a tragic consequence of his own resilience, or the result of being thrown into a match he shouldn't have competed in? For days, speculation ran rampant. Sports media outlets weighed in, medical experts offered theories, conspiracy threads on Reddit and X dissected frame-by-frame footage. One user slowed the footage down to 0.25x speed and swore they saw Rollins' right leg wobble moments before impact. But then, it happened. In an unprecedented move, WWE's chief executive officer broke his silence, and what he revealed, it shook the wrestling world to its core. He didn't just confirm Seth's injury, he didn't just explain the timeline, he pulled back the curtain and revealed a dangerous truth, a truth about backstage politics, about ignored medical advice, and about a superstar who gave too much for a company that took it all. But before we get there, before we dive into what the CEO finally confessed, let's rewind, because to understand how we got here, we need to go back before the pop, back before the fall, back to the silent war that had been building behind the scenes for months. You see, Seth Rollins has always been more than a performer. He's been a workhorse, a locker room leader, the man who stood tall during the company's darkest hours, when Reigns was out, when CM Punk was gone, when Cena was fading into Hollywood. Seth was there. He headlined, he bled, he walked through airports on 4 hours of sleep, waved to fans, carried the brand on house shows most top stars avoided. He was their Iron Man, but iron, when overforged, can crack, and the signs were there. Earlier this year, during a press junket for WrestleMania, Seth let something slip. A single sentence, almost offhand, that now feels loaded. I've been pushing through some stuff physically. It's nothing serious, yet. That yet would become prophetic. According to insiders, Seth had been nursing a minor knee sprain for months. But with SummerSlam approaching, WWE reportedly needed him in marquee shape. No delays, no cancellations, no substitutions. Sources now say internal emails between WWE executives and medical staff may have flagged Seth's condition. One source claimed a doctor wrote, quote, "Prolonged stress on the MCL could risk rupture with high-impact trauma." That email supposedly never made it to talent relations, and as always, Seth went on. He trained, he wrestled, he flew to city after city, and he kept performing like nothing was wrong. But that's just what Seth does, because in WWE, there's an unspoken code: you don't complain, you don't sit out unless you're completely broken, and you never, ever miss a big match. So when Saturday night's main event rolled around, Seth showed up, taped up, nodding, focused. He went through the curtain with a grin and a championship belt over his shoulder, but just minutes into the match, he landed awkwardly, and the pop echoed through the arena. It wasn't just the pop of a knee. It was the sound of a system breaking, because when Seth rolled to the corner, grimaced, and whispered something to the referee, we later learned what he said: "It's gone. My knee's gone." The ref asked if he wanted to stop the match. Seth shook his head, "No. Finish it." And so he did. But once the lights faded, the show ended, and the crowd emptied out. Seth Rollins collapsed backstage. This wasn't part of the storyline. This wasn't a dramatic kayfabe injury to build heat. This was real, and for WWE, for a billion-dollar company that thrives on spectacle, this was a nightmare, because Rollins wasn't just hurt. He was out, and they had no backup plan. Reports indicate that Triple H immediately called an emergency meeting with senior creative and legal advisors. Paul Heyman, who had pitched the match just a week prior, was visibly shaken, according to one backstage producer. Nick Aldis, SmackDown GM, had to cancel 2 segments planned for SummerSlam involving Rollins, but still, the company remained silent. No official update. No medical report. No apology until now, until the CEO, finally cornered by press and internal backlash, was forced to speak, and what he said, we'll break it down line by line. Because it wasn't just an injury report, it was a confession. Point 1 that could change how we view WWE forever. So stay with us, because the deeper we dig, the darker it gets, and by the end of this video, you'll see why fans, critics, and even WWE superstars themselves are now asking, who failed Seth Rollins, and how long has this truth been hidden? This is more than just a knee injury. This is the story of silence, sacrifice, and the cost of being great. It started like any other main event. Saturday night's main event. July 2025. San Jose, California. The energy in the arena was electric. The house was sold out. Nearly 15,000 fans packed into the SAP Center, eagerly waiting to see their modern-day hero. Seth Rollins, the visionary. The world heavyweight champion. The workhorse. The architect. He was scheduled to face Finn Balor in a title match, teased as the beginning of a new arc heading into SummerSlam. The build-up had been brilliant. Weeks of tension, subtle callbacks to their 2016 Universal title feud, and an undercurrent of mutual respect slowly giving way to resentment. The crowd was ready for war, and as always, Seth delivered, decked out in a vibrant gold and crimson ensemble. His signature colors of royalty and battle, he danced down the ramp with that signature smirk. The fans chanted along, "Seth freakin' Rollins." But what they didn't know, and what no one could see, was the pain behind the performance, because before the match even began, Seth had already taken 2 cortisone shots. His right knee, which had been swelling off and on for weeks, was heavily wrapped beneath his pants. A backstage source later claimed Seth was advised not to wrestle that night, but he insisted, "I'm not missing another build to SummerSlam," he reportedly told Medical, and so the bell rang. The opening 5 minutes were textbook Rollins versus Balor, crisp, fast-paced, exhilarating. A counter-heavy clinic between 2 veterans who know each other better than most brothers. But at exactly 9 minutes and 42 seconds into the match, everything changed. Seth leapt from the top rope, aiming for a diving knee strike, a move he's done 100 times. But this time, as he landed, something snapped. There was no pyro. No special effect. No angle, just a sickening pop. Audible to everyone at ringside. He buckled instantly. Collapsed to one knee. And clutched it like it had exploded. The camera angle quickly changed. The commentators went silent for just a second too long. And Michael Cole's voice, usually calm and commanding, cracked slightly. "Oh no. Rollins is down." At first, fans thought it was a work. Seth was known for selling pain convincingly. But then the referee ran to him, visibly panicked. And Rollins, mic'd lightly for the cameras, could be heard whispering, "It's gone." I felt it tear. Baylor hesitated. He walked over, unsure whether to continue. Rollins waved him forward. "Just finish it," he mouthed, and like that, a new plan was called on the fly. The pace of the match slowed dramatically. Seth barely moved on his right side. Every Irish whip, every springboard, every lift, he worked through it with pure grit. You could see it in his face. Agony barely hidden behind his signature bravado, but he still delivered a mid-air superkick. He still rolled through a sling blade into a half-limping stomp. He still got the pin. The crowd exploded. Fireworks went off. Music blared, but backstage, silence. The second he slipped through the curtain and out of sight, Seth collapsed. Security caught him before he hit the ground. Becky Lynch was already on her way down the hallway. She dropped to her knees beside him. "What happened?" she screamed. He didn't answer. He just held his knee and shook his head, eyes wide in disbelief. Medical staff rushed in. A stretcher was brought out. But Seth refused it. "Just help me up," he growled. TripleH appeared within minutes, furious. His voice could be heard all down Gorilla. Why the hell was he even out there? One producer tried to speak up. Triple cut them off. "You knew he wasn't cleared. You knew." Another voice joined in. "Paul Heyman. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't panicking. He was pacing, calm. Calculated. But deeply disturbed. He told me he could go," Heyman said softly, almost to himself. No one replied. Seth was helped into a trainer's room. No cameras. No press. No WWE Network documentary crew. Becky stayed by his side, silent. Her hands visibly trembling. One medical assistant who later spoke anonymously described the moment. "I've seen sprains. I've seen tears. But this," his knee was swelling before we even cut his gear off. It was like his body had been warning him for weeks, and this was the final break. WWE did not release a statement that night. Not even a tweet, and that silence echoed louder than any pop in the arena, because when someone like Seth Rollins collapses, the world notices. Within hours, Seth Rollins' injury was trending worldwide. Clips circulated online, analyzed frame by frame. Was it a botch? Was it an old injury flaring up? Was it sabotage? A particularly viral theory pointed out that earlier in the match, Seth seemed to wince after a Baylor dropkick. A moment no one had questioned until now. Others zoomed in on the moment he whispered to the referee, and then came the freeze frame, Seth mouthing the words, "My knee's gone." By morning, rumors were everywhere. Some said torn MCL, others claimed ACL and meniscus, career-threatening damage. A few dared to ask if it was worse, but WWE? Still silent, and that silence? It was louder than any press release could have ever been. Backstage, the mood was shattered. One anonymous superstar said it best, "It was like someone died. We've all worked through injuries. But this felt different. Like watching Superman fall from the sky." Rollins has always been more than just a wrestler. He's been the constant in an industry of chaos. He showed up when everyone else couldn't. He delivered match-of-the-night performances when his body was screaming at him to stop. He was a performer. A champion. A leader, and on that night in San Jose, he gave one final performance. But the cost? That was the question no one wanted to answer, because the truth was, Seth shouldn't have been in that ring. Not that night, not with that knee, not after what doctors had already warned, and yet, he did it anyway. Not for the money, not for the fame, but because that's what he was trained to do, because in WWE, pain is part of the business. But this pain was different. This pain wouldn't go away with an ice bath and a 2-day rest. This pain would require months of surgery, physical therapy, and the psychological battle of a man who once rebuilt the industry, now being forced to rebuild himself. But as the arena emptied and the crew tore down the ring, as the lights dimmed and the camera crews packed their gear, one thing became crystal clear: WWE was no longer in control of the story. The fans were demanding answers, the media was circling, and backstage, fingers were pointing. It wouldn't be long before someone with real power, would have to answer for what happened, and that someone? was about to speak, because less than 72 hours later, the WWE CEO issued a statement that would change everything. It's often said in journalism that silence speaks louder than words. In the days following Seth Rollins' devastating injury, the silence from WWE leadership was deafening. No tweets, no press release, no social media clip, no mention on Raw, SmackDown, or even WWE's official website. Nothing. In an age where every sneeze, every shoulder shrug, every surprise backstage segment gets uploaded within seconds, the absence of any official word on one of WWE's biggest stars being physically incapacitated was chilling, and fans noticed. The morning after Saturday night's main event, #RollinsUpdate was trending on X in over 11 countries. The official WWE Instagram page, usually quick to capitalize on buzz, remained suspiciously quiet. The only post made that day was a generic plug for a SummerSlam merchandise sale. Not a single mention of Rollins. To the public eye, WWE had just witnessed its world champion collapse, and acted as if it never happened. But inside the company? A very different kind of storm was brewing. Multiple sources backstage at Raw reported that there was a gag order. Producers were told to stick to format. On-screen talent were instructed, do not mention Seth unless it's in the script. Even commentators were briefed with altered language, no medical speculation, no past injury references, no acknowledgement of what happened backstage. The atmosphere was tight, controlled, paranoid, and for those who've been around WWE long enough, it felt eerily familiar. This is like what happened after Edge's neck, one veteran reportedly said. They don't want to admit anything until legal clears it. But this wasn't the Attitude Era. This was 2025, where fans had receipts, rewinds, and real-time exposure to everything behind the curtain. You couldn't just hide an injury anymore. The footage of Seth's collapse was already everywhere, circulating through fan phones, camera replays, and even bootleg back-angle footage that one fan claimed was from a production truck worker. And that footage, it didn't just show a hurt man. It showed a betrayed one. Slow-motion replays caught the moment Seth reached up and looked into the referee's eyes. The camera caught him mouthing something else, something never heard on air but caught by a ringside boom mic. I told them this would happen. Those 6 words spread across the internet like wildfire. I told them. Told who? What did he mean? Suddenly, fans weren't just worried, they were angry. Because if Seth Rollins knew he was at risk, and WWE let him wrestle anyway, what did that say about the system? The outcry was immediate. Podcasts from around the wrestling world began dissecting every angle. Veterans like Booker T and Kurt Angle hinted at having heard things backstage. Dave Meltzer, never one to hold back, tweeted, "This doesn't smell right. Talent doesn't just collapse with no prior warning. There's more here than they want out." Meanwhile, within the locker room, emotions boiled over. Several top stars reportedly went to management demanding clarity. One SmackDown superstar allegedly told a producer, "If this happened to Seth, it can happen to any of us." Another, younger talent said in a since-deleted social media post, "We're not bulletproof. Stop treating us like we are." But even amid all the internal pressure, WWE corporate kept quiet. 3 straight days passed, not a single acknowledgement from WWE executives, not from Triple H, not from Nick Khan, not even a whisper from the usually vocal Stephanie McMahon, who had rejoined the board just months earlier. For a company that boasts transparency, partnership, and superstar-first values, this wasn't just strange. It was suspicious. And then, the theories began. Some believed the injury was far worse than anyone knew, and the company was stalling to prepare a long-term rehab announcement. Others feared legal action, either from Seth himself, or from concerned third parties who had warned against his participation. But perhaps the darkest theory of all, that this wasn't an accident, that someone pushed Seth Rollins to the ring, that he was voluntold to perform despite medical protests, that Rollins was wrestling hurt, and they all knew it. A former backstage producer, speaking anonymously, shared a chilling quote, "There's pressure to perform, especially if you're in the top 5. You don't say no. You say yes, strap up, and get out there." Seth lives by that code. But when the machine knows you're broken, and still pushes you forward, that's when people start asking, who's protecting who? And yet, nothing came from the top. No words, no faces, no reassurances, just silence until the CEO was finally cornered. That week, WWE's CEO had scheduled a routine earnings call with shareholders. Typically, it was a dry affair. Financial projections, digital growth, licensing deals, maybe a mention of Peacock ratings. But that morning, over 400 journalists dialed in. Many weren't even sports reporters. They were business journalists, medical analysts, even human rights commentators. The first question posed, "Can you speak on the condition of Seth Rollins?" The CEO paused. Then pivoted, "Out of respect for our talent, we don't comment on medical matters unless a release has been approved by legal." It wasn't enough, because the second question came immediately after. Did WWE knowingly clear Seth Rollins to compete against medical advice? Silence. Then a carefully crafted reply, "WWE takes talent safety very seriously. At this time, that's all I can say." But the damage was done, because silence, when it follows trauma, begins to feel like guilt, and for the WWE universe. Fans, staff, even executives, the truth was growing too large to ignore. You can only bury a secret for so long before it begins to rot, and behind that silence, something was rotting, and it wouldn't be long before it reached the surface, because someone, somewhere, was about to break the silence, and this time, it wouldn't be through cryptic tweets or whispered reports. It would be a statement, official, raw, public, from the man at the very top. The WWE CEO was finally ready to talk, and what he said next would change everything. It began with a whisper, then a screenshot, then a shaky clip, 14 seconds long, uploaded from a burner account with no profile photo and a username made of random numbers, but that was all it took. One anonymous post, one video, would blow the lid off a carefully guarded secret and bring WWE's PR machine crashing down. The footage was raw, grainy, likely shot from a locker room corner, just behind a catering table. The angle was shaky, the lighting poor. But the sound? Crystal clear, and what it captured was undeniable. TripleH, Chief Content Officer, the architect of modern WWE storytelling, was caught mid-scream. Not on camera, but clearly audible. "I told you he wasn't cleared. Who the hell signed off on this?" In the foreground, Paul Heyman walked by, holding a phone to his ear, muttering something as he passed. "If this leaks, we're all F**********. The video ends with a trainer's voice, female, young, shaken, saying, "It was already swelling before he got to the ring." That clip, it exploded within 45 minutes, shared to Reddit, reposted on X. Embedded in wrestling YouTube channels by the dozen. By morning, it had crossed 5 million views. Suddenly, this wasn't about speculation anymore. It wasn't about what Seth's knee might have been. It wasn't about what doctors may have said. It was about what WWE knew, and chose to ignore. And the world wasn't buying silence anymore. The backlash was immediate. One fan tweeted, "TripleH screaming about a medical clearance that shouldn't have happened? And WWE still hasn't released a statement? You think this is a storyline?" Another wrote, "This is no longer just an injury. This is negligence." The footage even made national news. ESPN's Outside the Lines ran a full segment. Bleacher Report called it one of the most controversial medical incidents in modern pro wrestling. TMZ went further, dubbing it a potential corporate scandal in tights. And in the eye of this firestorm stood three men, TripleH. Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. Let's break it down. According to a source close to the production team, the footage was likely taken just 15 minutes after Rollins' match ended. That means the panic hadn't subsided. The executives were still scrambling for control. And in that chaos, someone captured a moment of unfiltered truth. But the real question, who leaked it? Some speculated it was a disgruntled production assistant. Others believed it was an intentional internal move, perhaps from someone tired of the way things were being handled. A few even pointed fingers at a certain SmackDown talent known for clashing with upper management, who posted cryptic messages days before the clip surfaced. Truth always finds a way out. Even when the lights go dark. No name. No direct reference. But fans connected the dots. Inside WWE, phones were being checked. Backstage security was tightened. One source claimed all talent and staff received an emergency memo that read, "Any unauthorized recordings, leaks, or footage distribution will result in immediate termination and legal prosecution." But it was too late, because the genie was out of the bottle, and for the first time since the Attitude Era, the world had seen the real faces behind WWE's power structure: panicked, furious, exposed, and Seth. Still no update, still no video message, still no tweet, only silence, but the leak had accomplished something the fans couldn't. It forced WWE's top brass to respond. Hours after the footage surfaced, WWE quietly updated their website. No fanfare, no Twitter post, just a discreet article titled, "Medical Update on Seth Rollins." The statement was bland. Sanitized. Likely lawyer-approved. Seth Rollins sustained an injury to his right knee during his match at Saturday night's main event. As of now, he is undergoing further evaluation by WWE's medical staff. "We wish Seth a full and speedy recovery." That was it.no timeline.no details.no accountability. Fans were outraged. He collapsed backstage and that's all you have to say? Where's the footage from your billion-dollar production team now? You released full 24/7 videos when Big E broke his neck, but silence for Seth? He's your world champion. And as the pressure mounted, WWE's leadership finally realized, this wasn't going away. Triple H, once hailed for restoring WWE's creative credibility, now looked like a man cornered. Paul Heyman, ever the master manipulator, was facing accusations from both sides. Did he push Seth to perform? Did he try to cover it up, and the CEO? The most silent of all, but the video changed everything, because now there was evidence, not just rumors, not just fan theories, real voices. Real emotion. Real panic. The world had seen the curtain pulled back, and what lay behind it wasn't glamorous. It was scared, and for Seth Rollins, that meant more than just a knee. It meant trust, shattered loyalty, questioned, and silence. Weaponized. One former WWE doctor, now independent, gave a chilling statement in a podcast interview: "If what I saw in that footage is accurate, and Rollins was knowingly sent to the ring with a damaged joint that had already been flagged, that's not just negligence. That's liability." The implications were heavy. Could Seth sue? Would fans demand reform? Would talent stage a quiet rebellion backstage? But most importantly, would WWE finally tell the truth? In the days that followed, the company scrambled to regain control, but nothing worked. The footage had gone viral, and when something goes viral in 2025, it never disappears. WWE found itself caught between denial and disaster. They could no longer pretend this was part of a storyline, they couldn't claim ignorance, and they couldn't hide behind medical confidentiality, because now, the world had heard the truth, and the next time the CEO spoke, it wouldn't be enough to issue a bland update. It would have to be real, raw, and public, because the next time he spoke, he'd be standing at a podium staring down reporters, and finally saying what the world was waiting to hear, the truth, and when he did, it would change the future of WWE, forever. It was 10:59 a.m. Eastern. Reporters refreshed their live streams. Shareholders dialed in. WWE's official YouTube countdown ticked closer to zero. And inside the sleek, glass-paneled media room at WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, an unusual tension hovered in the air. This wasn't a launch, not a TV rights announcement, not a new streaming deal or premium live event reveal. This was damage control, and the entire wrestling world was watching. At exactly 11 a.m., WWE's logo faded in on screen, black and gold. Simple. Serious. No flashy animation. No music. Just a slow transition into a single podium placed at the center of the room. Behind it, WWE's Chief Executive Officer. No suit. No tie. No teleprompter. Just a man who looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. The CEO took a long breath and leaned into the mic. "Let me begin by saying something simple, and something overdue. Seth Rollins should never have been in that ring." The words dropped like a bombshell. There was no attempt at spin. No clever phrasing, just truth, heavy, deliberate, and undeniable. He continued, "We've always said our superstars are the heart and soul of this company. That we prioritize their health and safety above all else. But last Saturday, we failed. We failed Seth. We failed our locker room. And we failed our fans. And just like that, the narrative shifted. This wasn't a denial. It wasn't a delay tactic. It was an open wound, and the CEO had just ripped off the bandage. He then detailed the timeline. On July 19th, Seth underwent a routine physical assessment. The results indicated inflammation in the medial ligament of his right knee, consistent with chronic overuse. The recommendation from medical was caution, rest, reduced load, observation. But due to ongoing storyline commitments and pressure from all sides, ours included, Seth chose to work. And we let him. A pause then, the words that would trend globally within minutes. It was our responsibility to protect him, even from himself. We failed to do that. Across the world, wrestling fans sat in stunned silence, not because of what was said, but because of who said it. For years, WWE had built its empire on control of narrative, control of image, control of consequences. This was the opposite. This was surrender. But the CEO wasn't finished. He turned his head slightly, as if speaking directly to the locker room, not the public. Let me be clear to every performer in WWE, past, present, and future. If you are hurt, say it. If you're not ready, speak up. We are fixing this culture, effective immediately. Then, to Seth Rollins, our champion, our leader, our friend, I'm sorry. You gave us everything, even when your body was breaking. We didn't stop you. And we should have. It was the most human moment in WWE's corporate history. No stagecraft.